You're telling me that these things are inside the Golden Gate Bridge, 1. 2, that they only come out at night. That they're responsible for the death of 15 or more kids and 3 of my police officers.
Let me ruin your evening, the stranger said to me. Your new lover is my old
They're young.
lover. She said,
Well, Sue, it's great.
They think they're going to live
'Cause I believe
forever.
what she told me.
What are you doing? Get out. He doesn't want to play with us. He wants to fool around.
But they're in for a terrible surprise. Now, there are 12 new reasons
Over here!
to be afraid of the dark.
They're after me.
And every one of them is a killer. Introducing, in diabolical order, Axe, Hangman, Dog, Biker, Slash, Juice, Samurai, Mohawk, Archer, Soldier. These are the Neon Maniacs. They live so others may die. Neon Maniacs.
Hey guys, this is Narciso here, and this is the first experimental little episode of a new branch within the Creatures of the Night channel. I'm calling the Cult Vault. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but what I'm going to do is do shortened, maybe 15-20 minute videos reviewing very obscure, random stuff that most people don't know about, or maybe have heard and never watched. So we're going to start this off with a movie somehow escaped me my entire life thus far. And I've always heard here and there about Neon Maniacs. I've never seen it. So I decided to start this sucker off with Neon Maniacs. Just finished watching it freshly, so this is fresh in my mind. Took a bunch of notes here. Where to begin? Neon Maniacs, 1986. It's about 1 hour and 30 minutes long. And it is a film that I can only freshly, just watched, say it is a clusterfuck of a movie that I have still am struggling to understand what the hell this movie is about, okay? Where to begin with Neon Maniacs? Okay, so basically, it's an 80s typical beginning where it's a bunch of people, bunch of young kids in high school. They all look like they're in their late 20s, if you ask me, and they're in a van in a forest, and they're all necking and having fun and drinking and partying and all this stuff. And I guess it's in like a forest or something nearby the Golden Gate Bridge. This is in San Francisco. So for whatever reason or another, they unlock these serial maniacal killing monsters that live in one of the towers under the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, this movie does an very poor, god-awful job explaining who they are and where they come from. They just don't explain shit, okay? This crew of monsters is 50 heads deep at least, and they all live under this bridge in like underground compartments, and they constantly kill people, and nobody's ever heard of them. Nobody's ever mentioned anything. There's no cases of missing people. They've just been doing this for God knows how long, and they're the Neon Maniacs. So the movie starts off with a crew of kids. They all get slaughtered. Friday the 13th style. They're all in their under trees and in the van, listening to music, having sex, doing this and that. And the Neon Maniacs show up and they start creating chaos and killing everybody off. There's one lone survivor. She now becomes sort of like the town pariah because nobody believes that her story of these monsters that killed everybody, and she's the only one that survived. So she gets kicked out of school. She's stuck in her house, and one thing leads to another, and there's this other girl who's like a filmmaker. Mind you, I think she's supposed to be a 12, 14-year-old girl, and it looks like a middle-aged woman playing a little kid. They just put like a cap sideways on her to play that off. But anyways, they start trying to figure out what these things are, where they come from, and what can kill them. So there's a love interest, there's the surviving chick, and then now there's the filmmaking girl, who are now pretty much the monster squad, who are trying to find out where these things are, how to kill them. She wants to prove to the police station and the detective and all this stuff that there are monsters and this is it. So the movie is very poorly edited. So there's parts of the movie that it cuts from the young girl that's a filmmaker doing her own investigational work to the surviving girl and her new love interest, and them trying to figure out how they can bring this story to light and all this other stuff. So in between all of this, they barely ever show the Neon Maniacs. They go through a whole chunk of movie where you don't see them. Whenever you do see them, it's in such poorly lit scenes that it's almost pitch black and you have to squint to make out what the hell's going on. There's a few killings throughout the movie here and there just to remind you that they're in the area and they are the bad guys of the movie. But it's just a clusterfuck. It feels like they were shooting something and they were just copying other movies. There's a blatant scene where they're in a police station and the girl's getting interrogated by the detective and all this stuff. And it's a straight ripoff from Terminator 1. There is like, they're watching the video on the monitor, like if it was Sarah Connor, and they're all talking amongst each other, like this chick is batshit crazy. There's a lot of little things that you could tell they feel like they've been copied a lot. There's like a whole sequence where they're running from the monsters in a subway station and they get on the train and the monsters are in the train and they're running from cart to cart and it feels like the Warriors. There's some scenes in the movie which are like the big set pieces, which are very cool. Like I said, that subway chase scene is one of the highlights of the film. It's pretty intense. It's pretty cool what they try to pull off. It must have been no budget at the time. There's also a bus sequence where they get attacked on a moving bus and all that's pretty cool. As for the monsters themselves, what are they? Makes no fucking sense. Like I said, it's like a crew of like 50 heads in this. They're all different. You have biker monster. You have zombie doctor monster. You have Godzilla one-eyed baby looking monster. You have one of the main ones, which is the guy, it's always on all the posters, really cool samurai guy. It doesn't make any sense. There's one that looks like a half werewolf. It's like they got a bunch of free costumes from like a costume store and just threw them together and they said, yeah, this is it. This works. It's a bunch of monsters. They're neon monsters and it pisses me off because they don't want to explain anything. If you tell me it's a crew of monsters that throughout time, you know, they turn individuals into and like sort of incorporate them into their inner circle, so it makes sense because they're from different times, different themes. There's one military army monster guy that he looks like he's right out of Vietnam. I don't understand. They don't explain anything. I think the big issue with this film, and mind you, I just saw it for the first time. I know there's a lot of people out there who love this. It's a cult film. You know, they probably grew up seeing this movie from back in like the 80s and stuff, and they just have that sort of pure nostalgia and love for it. But if you didn't have that and you watched this for the first time like I did, and I'm an 80s kid and I can accept a lot of shit from the 80s, but this movie has no intention of trying to make sense of itself. It feels like it's rushed. It feels like they were just copying whatever they saw from cool movies at the time. Of course, it has a generic ending inside of a giant battle of the bands in a school auditorium, a la Trick or Treat or Carrie. that type of stuff, which is cool. It was actually a pretty cool idea of them trying to bring in the monsters to the Battle of the Bands and giving everybody the water guns. But it wasn't explained. It's poorly mishandled. The music in the Battle of the Bands, by the way, is fucking awful. I mean, the main guy is also the singer of the main band, and it sounds like yacht rock. And then they cut to this hilarious hair metal band that they're going up against. Oh, jeez. So bad. So good, but it's so bad. Neon Maniacs. And I don't know if maybe there's a better HD version of this. I saw it on, it's available on Tubi and I think Pluto, but the quality is piss poor, super grainy, you know, and it's like I said, every time the monsters are on, it's so dark, it's hard to see. And it's just a hodgepodge of 80s movie ideas thrown into this. The monsters die, like I said, with water, so everybody has water guns. Kind of like gremlins, if you wet them, they just start fucking melting and exploding. They don't explain why. They're all from different timelines and different themes of monsters, so why do they all die with water? I don't know. Why is there a fucking doctor one with a fucking suitcase who actually is like a surgeon and all this shit? They don't care. They just throw shit in there and you just have to watch it and take it. It's a popcorn movie. You turn off your brain and you just accept that there is no significant plot. There is no true characters that you care about. I really didn't give a shit about any of these guys. The main actor, the main hero is like the General Trees version of Ben Affleck to me. It's like just got the main girl, I forgot her name now, but oh god, just god awful. The acting was fucking terrible. This movie feels like an early 80s trauma movie is what it feels like. It feels like they shot this with no money around a back lot with whatever costumes they can get their hands on, and they just wrote a story as they were on the fly with whatever actors. I heard that there was like a hiatus in between filming and they couldn't even get the same actors to reprieve the roles of the monsters and stuff, so like they constantly changing people and costumes. Oh my god, the ending, I'm like, I had to sit there for 5 minutes thinking about the ending, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. They don't explain anything. There's a truck that the detective opens the back doors at the end, and there's like light and fog and that Godzilla baby looking Cyclops monster's in there, and it grabs him and drags him in, and it just ends. And I'm just like, okay, so inside the truck, which is inside the tower of the Golden Gate Bridge, is it a portal to hell that they were trying to say maybe was in that truck and that's where they come in and out of? Which would make more sense because, okay, they're literally a portal from hell in the Golden Gate Bridge. And I think that's kind of a cool idea if they would have built out a mythos for you to understand that. And it makes more sense of why they show up, how they show up, and how many show up out of one metal door under the bridge. But they don't. It just shows that for the very first time to end the film. So, hey, it's up to you, I guess. Choose your own adventure. Is that what they meant to do? Was that just another random idea? They didn't give a fuck, and they said, hey, it's up to you guys to figure out what the hell the ending was, because we don't even know, because we didn't really even write it. So yeah, I just thought that this would be a fun little quick retro review to start off this little series of mine. So, Neon Maniacs, do I recommend it? Fuck no. Do people actually like this movie? Yes. That's the only reason I even heard about this. As a first-time viewer of that, I just don't like it. I had nothing that sticks with me except for maybe a few cool little action sequences. The effects were subpar. The makeup was subpar. The acting was fucking god-awful. The lighting was so dark in some scenes, I didn't even know what the hell I was watching. The gore was okay in some scenes. So, hey, if you got nothing else to do, you got Tubi or you got Pluto, it's free. The resolution sucks, but it's there if you want to see it. Neon Maniacs. Fuck that.